Good morning to my healthies and my hefties. How's everyone doing on this wonderful Sunday morning? The weather is so wonderful out here where we live. I see my husband outside fiddling with the lawnmower, so I guess he's getting ready to crank it up and make our yard look nice and pretty again. It is definitely ready. So hope everyone has had a good weekend. You know, this is the top of the week. So, hey, and I decided to get up and I'm going to do part 4 today. This is the final part of my 4-part series on nurse RaDonda Vaught. And she was a nurse that was charged with giving one of her female patients, her 75-year-old female patient, Charlene Murphy, the wrong medication, and the patient did die due to this medical error. So if you want to catch up with me, go watch parts 1, 2, and 3, and then you'll be ready to see part 4, and it'll all make sense if you seem a bit lost anytime during this video, okay? But it just came down to 2 questions. Is this a system error, or is this solely a nurse error? Many people are split, 50-50 on this from what I've seen in videos, okay? And I do want to say congratulations. We did have a winner the last day of March, and this winner did receive their cash, and they were very excited about it, so congratulations. Now let's dive into this video, and I will converse with you afterwards.
Tonight, a former nurse found guilty of homicide for the accidental death of a patient due to a medical error.
It's a scary place that we work in for a lot of reasons.
The former nurse, RaDonda Vaught, seen immediately after the verdict, surrounded by crying nurses outside a Tennessee courtroom. Vaught, guilty of criminally negligent homicide and gross neglect of an impaired adult. She pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Nurses are outraged here.
Many speaking out after the decision.
I'm terrified that now I'm in a profession where, God forbid, I do make a mistake.
The American Nursing Association saying it sets a dangerous precedent of criminalizing the honest reporting of mistakes, adding that some medical errors are inevitable. On Friday, a jury convicted her for injecting the paralyzing drug vacuronium into a 75-year-old, Charlene Murphy, instead of the drug Versed, a sedative.
Is this an indictment against the nursing profession and medical community?
No, absolutely not. I found out very quickly that this was not about a single mistake.
The DA says there were at least 17 instances of, quote, gross neglect that led to Murphy's death.
We had a jury trial. And on that jury were 2 health professionals, including a nurse. We don't prosecute nurses for making a mistake. But if there is gross neglect, then yes, that person is going to be subject to prosecution.
The AP reporting Vaught admitted to making several errors in court. Her lawyer, Peter Stryance, arguing Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Tennessee is partially responsible.
Who is accountable and who is responsible in cases like this?
There are really 2 kinds of errors that take place in healthcare. One are what I'll call culpable errors, meaning you're under the influence, you're not prepared. Then there are errors that happen because the system fails.
Vaught's lawyer says the system did fail due to a practice of overriding the hospital's electronic medical cabinet to access the drugs. Vaught seen here furthering this claim last summer before the state's nursing board.
Overriding was something we did as a part of our practice every day.
According to the DA, the Vanderbilt University Medical Center negotiated an out-of-court settlement with Murphy's family. It also fired Vaught, who lost her nursing license and declined to comment when contacted by NBC.
We've heard from a lot of medical practitioners who say this sets a dangerous precedent.
Anyone who assumes a duty of care over another person will be subject to prosecution if they cause harm due to gross neglect. That's not a precedent, that's the law.
All right, Zinclay joins us now live here on set. So Zinclay, are we talking about prison time here? And what is the family of that victim saying?
Yeah, so we know sentencing will be May 13th. The AP says prison time could look like 3 to 6 years, but it's important that we center the voice of the family. They actually gave us a statement just a few hours ago, and they emphasized that they did not pursue charges against Ms. Vaught. And so that's an important distinction to make tonight.
Okay, so we saw that video, and we're going to break it down here in just a moment, but I want to highlight Nurse Scott for just a few moments. He left a comment under one of my videos saying that he also made a video on this case. I want to highlight something that he said in his video. I didn't realize that this case was initially settled out of court and the nurse was fired. Of course, it was confirmed that she lost her license. So the information I showed you regarding her license was correct. But in his video, he talks about how, you know, it was settled with the family, but there was actually someone that must have been present or knew all about what happened that day, because there was a whistleblower that was able to get this case reopened because they told the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid what really happened leading up to that patient's death. So yeah, the whistleblower set this thing off, and there was apparently enough evidence to open a case. So I didn't realize that, and I wanted to go back and let you guys know that. And Nurse Scott said that there were 10 mistakes that were made. And in the video we watched, they said there was 17 mistakes that were made. And we're going to go over all of these mistakes that she made before the patient died. She was found guilty of criminally negligent homicide, gross neglect of an impaired adult. I don't know how the news station got impaired spelled wrong, but they did. I'm not an English teacher. I'm a nurse, so let me just carry on, okay? Let's look at the definition right here. Criminal negligence is conduct where a person ignores an obvious risk or disregards the life and safety of those around him. Both federal and state courts describe this behavior as a form of recklessness. The negligent person acts significantly different than most people would under similar circumstances. So it really stands out under criminal negligence, okay? Now let's look at this gross negligence. It's a heightened degree of negligence representing an extreme departure from the ordinary standard of care, falling between intent to do wrongful harm and ordinary negligence. Gross negligence is defined as willful, wanton, and reckless conduct affecting the life or property of another. So, I mean, you have to really give horrible patient care or really cause some extreme neglect for it to be considered criminally negligent and grossly negligent here. I tried to get a screenshot of as many of them as I could. Number 1, took the wrong drug out of the ADC medicine cabinet. 2, did not properly search for the correct drug in the ADC medicine cabinet. Remember, she just put in the first 2 letters. And when you override, you can just put in the first 2 letters of the name of a drug and it'll pop up some options for you. 3, she then overrode the computer. That means she overrode it and pulled it out versus waiting on pharmacy to do so. 4, failed to verify with the pharmacy. 5, failed to type in the correct name of the medication. 6, well, she could have spelled the whole name of the medication versus the initials. 6, neglected to read the computer screen. So not only did she type in the first 2 letters, but she failed to fully read the name of the medication, and she would have seen that she was about to pull the wrong medication. The sticker said, number 7, the sticker said, warning, paralyzing agent on pocket drawer, and she ignored that. And I know you can't see 8 through 11 on the screen, so I'll go ahead and read it because I went back and wrote it down. Number 8, never visually checked the medication. So she never just held it in her hand and really looked at it. Number 9, did not ask a second RN to check the medication. So you could ask somebody, say, hey, does this look like this is the same thing the doctor wrote on this order? Does that look about right? You know, second opinion always helps. 10, did not properly identify the patient. So that means she didn't get the patient's name, date of birth, and verify it against that order. Number 11, did not scan the medication name on the vial. So when we get a medication out of the med dispense, we can scan that medication under that patient's profile, and she would have got an error message right then and there that says this medication does not match this patient's profile, and that would have saved her as well. 12, did not check the medication name on the vial. She could have easily read the vial, and she would have saw that the name did not say Versed, it said Vecuronium. 13, reconstituted the medication. That means she went ahead and mixed the medication up, shook it up, getting ready to draw it up, ignoring the warning paralyzing agent on the vial cap 3 times. And those 3 times she missed it was when she swabbed the vial with alcohol. She could have easily read that it was a paralyzing agent. When she pushed that saline in the vial for reconstitution, meaning she mixed the powder with the saline and reconstituted it to form the actual medication. And the 3rd time she missed it was when she withdrew the medication. So when she mixed it, reconstituted it with the powder with the liquid normal saline, mixed it up, and then when she pulled it back out, she could have caught it then. She could have been reading the vial as she was pulling the medication out with her syringe with needle attached and could have read that it said vecuronium. Okay. All right, let's continue. Number 14, she did not check the patient's vitals before giving the drug. And that's a good one. You want to know anytime you give anything like Versed or vecuronium, any medication through IV that is going to sedate your patient, you want to see what their vital signs are, because if their blood pressure or their heart rate is too low, you're only going to make it lower when you give them something that's going to relax them enough to go and get a test done. Number 15, she did not monitor the patient reaction to the drug. And I spoke about that in my other parts of this video. Go back and see part 1, 2, and 3. She didn't monitor the patient reaction, which would be anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes later while she was waiting on the MRI scan or whatever test she was going to get done. She could have been going back just to monitor that patient, peeping in the room. Hey, how you doing? How you feeling? She would have noticed right away that something was wrong had she properly monitored her. And with a drug like that, I would have made sure the patient is talking back to me. Well, she didn't know what drug it was, but anytime I give something IV, I want to make sure their eyes are open. They are talking to me because I know what the medicine is supposed to do. I know how the patient is supposed to react, and I've already educated them on what the medication is supposed to do and how it should make them feel versus how they should not feel. And if they have any adverse reactions, to let me know immediately. I want to make sure they were talking, up watching TV or something, just relaxing, waiting for the test to be done. I wouldn't have just assumed that their eyes were closed, that, they were okay. I would have made sure. Some nurses like to see the rise, what we call the rise and fall of the chest. We want to make sure they are breathing. You see their chest rise and you see it fall. That means they are breathing. Okay, you can check their pulse through their wrist. You can check their radial pulse and see, okay, it's a regular heart rate. It's not real fast. It's not too slow. It's just right. I can feel it okay with no problems. All right, let's continue. And I do want to clarify here. Number 15 says the patient, she did not monitor the patient reaction to the drug, meaning is the patient unusually drowsy? Are they slumping over the bed as if they're trying to tell me something? Do they have like a weird daze about them? Are they slurring their words or anything? That type of patient reaction. And number 16 says did not monitor patient vital signs after administering the drug. And I've already spoken over this too. She had not done this. Had she done this, she would have realized her errors and could have saved Murphy's life, because there is an antidote for this medication, for vecuronium. And I may or may not be pronouncing this wrong, but the antidote for vecuronium is Sugammadex. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It's a relaxant binding agent, reverses the effects of rocuronium and vecuronium by encapsulation. So had she thoroughly followed up and checked with her patient within a few minutes, she possibly could have saved her life. So it's unfortunate. Number 17, she left the patient in the room with no nursing supervision. Had she stayed 2 minutes, she would have seen Murphy struggling. So she just pushed the medication, flushed it through her IV, and left the room and continued with her next order of business that day. So, I mean, she was dead just within 10 minutes after this, I'm pretty sure. And it was not until they come up to the floor to take her down to do the test, wherever they were going to take her to, that they realized something was wrong. And they called a code and followed the code blue protocol. That is very, very, very unfortunate. Now, there are some other things that I did want to cover. And family, this is not the family that is pursuing this. Because remember, she's already settled out of court, at the time it happened with the family. So this is not the family going after her. This is after the whistleblower called into the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, and they opened a case. So the family's not doing this. It wasn't their doing. It's actually the state that took over the case and is going to prosecute her for making several errors before the patient was succumbed to her medication error. And I just want to point out that I did not type this. I got this from the video that I showed you guys earlier. I did not misspell impaired, okay? This is the news. I just want y'all to know that. All right, now, her lawyer said something that really stuck out to me. He said this is a systemic error. It's not just a nurse error. He said, had she not been able to override the system, this would have never happened. Okay, but the system is not able to be overridden without a human hand physically going in there and knowing how to override the system. So I just want to make that clear, that the system cannot override itself. You have to understand that it's someone on the other side of that computer that is making this happen. So you want the system to be at fault for what she did to override it, which we have learned how to override it in emergent situations. It must be an emergency or a right now order, but mainly emergency for us to override it. There was no reason to override it if it wasn't an emergency. She was going down for a test, and I've had patients that were anxious and needed something before they had a test, but I rarely, maybe once or twice, overrode like a Xanax in pill form, might I add. They could take it by mouth in pill form, and I would override it and get a second nurse to override it, and I would double check the order. But if I know that CT or MRI is not going to be ready for another 30 to 45 minutes, coming up on an hour or so, then I'm just going to let the pharmacy put that in under my patient's profile and pull it under the profile. So I don't know what the circumstances were surrounding her having to override it unless they called up and say, hey, we're coming up to get your patient in the next 5 minutes for this test that the doctor ordered. Something like that. But you still have someone to verify. You still double check. Don't get yourself in so much of a hurry that you're making all these mistakes, because it can easily happen. It can easily happen. Have I given a wrong medication before? Yes, I have. And it was by the grace of God that it was something that the patient was not allergic to. It was something that didn't cause any side effects to my patient. Thank God that he was with me. You know what I mean? Because things like this happen. So I don't understand how they're just trying to blame it on the system here. Because, you have to have someone on the other side of that overriding it. But I'm afraid that this is going to lead nurses to lie in the future about giving a wrong medication for fear of punishment, jail time, prison time, lawsuits. They're afraid of the repercussions following a med error. So that's what I see coming in the future in the world of nursing and medication errors. Now, sentencing is May the 13th, and she is facing anywhere from 3 to 6 years is what they said in the news clip. So I'm pretty sure with good behavior, she'll probably be out in 1 or 2 years, probably 8 or 9 months with the way the system works on good behavior. And I don't know if she had any time served or not. I don't think she did. But of course, if she has served any time, she'll get credit for that. But yeah, that is part 4. This is the sentencing phase of it. And of course, when she does get sentenced, I will try to watch out for that and come back with another video and let you guys know what they gave her. All right. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Shout out to the notification gang. I love you all. Bye, my healthies and hefties.